The topic of the month for February 2018 is Maintenance Placards. In this presentation, we'll talk a little bit about recommendations from a work group that studies loss of control. The General Aviation Joint Steering Committee, or GAJSC, is a government industry group that studies GA accidents and makes recommendations for adoption of what they call safety enhancements. One of their safety enhancements addresses the problem of operating aircraft before they're ready to be returned to service after maintenance. It doesn't happen often, but some general aviation accidents have resulted from pilots inadvertently flying aircraft that were not airworthy. The GAJSC feels that an out-of-service placard conspicuously placed in the cockpit can go a long way toward preventing such accidents. We'll discuss several scenarios in the following slides. We'll also discuss some basic maintenance knowledge that all pilots need in order to communicate effectively with mechanics and to operate aircraft safely after maintenance work has been done. Pilots and command are responsible for the airworthiness of the aircraft they fly. That's made abundantly clear in CFR 91.3. The pilot in command is directly responsible for and the final authority as to the operation of that aircraft. In CFR 91.103, the pilot in command shall become familiar with all available information concerning that flight. Airworthiness is definitely one critical information category, but how available is it really? And how do we become familiar with mechanical issues that we may not be qualified to evaluate? 14 CFR Part 43 describes who is authorized to perform maintenance on U.S. registered aircraft, who is authorized to inspect those aircraft, and who is authorized to approve aircraft for return to service after maintenance has been done. Ironically, formal return to service documentation is required, but no documentation is required when an aircraft is taken out of service. Most aircraft owners are up to speed on the status of their machines, and rental fleets usually have aircraft status boards or squawk sheets to review. But every once in a while, there's a nasty surprise for pilots who take flight, or try to, in aircraft that aren't ready to be returned to service. The GAJSC feels that GA safety would be enhanced if an aircraft out-of-service placard or sticker were placed in the pilot's field of view beginning when the aircraft is taken out of service for maintenance. The placard would only be removed when the return to service documentation is complete. Of course, owners and operators are free to make their own placards to post in the cockpits of aircraft scheduled for maintenance. Pilots should make sure that all maintenance has been performed and documented before removing the placard. It's always a good idea to do an enhanced pre-flight on aircraft that have just been returned to service. Occasionally, you'll find an expensive tool left behind, but more importantly, you may spot hoses or electrical connections that have not been re-established after work was done. Your pre-flight should start with the aircraft documentation. Make sure the maintenance work has been documented in the appropriate aircraft logbook and check that the aircraft has been returned to service. Ensure that the TAC and/or hour meter readings are correct. If the aircraft was test flown, there may be a discrepancy between the logbook time and what you see on the panel. Also make sure that all the required inspections have been performed and documented. When looking the aircraft over, take your time. Use a checklist to make sure you don't miss anything and pay particular attention to the areas that were worked on, including any disconnections that may have been required to access the parts that were serviced. Make sure the machine has been serviced with proper type and grade of fuel and oil. This pre-flight item is important enough to warrant its own slide. What do you think it is? That's right. It doesn't happen often, but if your flight controls are connected so that you're turning right when you command turns to the left, or pushing forward raises the nose, there will be little time to learn how to fly with reversed controls. After maintenance, why not head to your run-up area, perform one, and then return to your starting point? Shut down, get out, and look over everything. Special attention should be paid to things like oil leaks, loose fasteners, etc. Then, if everything is okay, perhaps it's time to fly. As a reminder, for the first flight, stay in the pattern, within gliding distance of your runway. Please direct any questions to your local FAST team representative. Narration by Bradford Wood, Assistant National Outreach Manager. There's nothing like the feeling you get when you know you're playing your A game, and in order to do that, you need a good coach. So fly regularly with a CFI who will challenge you to review what you know, explore new horizons, and to always do your best. Of course, you'll have to dedicate time and money to your proficiency program, but it's well worth it for the peace of mind that comes with confidence. Vince Lombardi, the famous football coach, said, "Practice does not make perfect. Only perfect practice makes perfect." For pilots, that means flying with precision, on course, on altitude, on speed, all the time. Be sure to document your achievement in the Wings Proficiency Program. It's a great way to stay on top of your game and keep your flight review current. Your presence here shows that you are a vital member of our general aviation safety community. The high standards you keep and the examples you set are a great credit to you and to GA. Thank you for attending.